Dear Chosen One, have you been feeling a strange sense of relief lately? Like a heavy weight has been lifted, but you can't quite explain why? Maybe you've noticed that certain people have gone silent. Maybe the situations that used to bring you anxiety have suddenly lost their power over you. Or maybe you've just been waking up with a peace that feels unfamiliar after everything you've been through. What you don't realize yet is that this shift isn't random. It's the result of something powerful that already happened in the spirit realm. While you've been moving through your days, something invisible, something monumental, just broke. What you couldn't see was the dark spiritual empire that had been quietly built around you over time, an energetic system designed to drain you, confuse you, and block your destiny, fueled by envy, by toxic words spoken in secret, by emotional manipulation and spiritual sabotage. For months, maybe even years, this invisible web surrounded your path. Every step forward felt like walking through mud. Every breakthrough felt delayed. But while you were praying, while you were fasting, while you were choosing silence instead of reaction, while you were blocking access to certain people, you were unknowingly dismantling their entire structure. If you've been feeling this strange emotional shift, this sudden peace mixed with a lingering confusion about what's really going on, here's your confirmation. You didn't just survive, you destroyed what was holding you back. And those who built this spiritual empire against you are now in shock, trying to understand why nothing they do works anymore. If this is already resonating with your spirit, write in the comments right now. The empire of evil has fallen. Declare it loudly to shatter any shadow that might come into your life. Take this moment to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and stick around, because today we're going to uncover what really happened and why they'll never rebuild what you've already destroyed. What you were truly battling wasn't just emotional discomfort or a few difficult people. It was a complex and deeply rooted spiritual structure built over time by layers of negative intention, jealousy, hidden conversations, and silent curses. This empire wasn't formed overnight. It was the result of repeated energetic attacks, thought patterns projected against you, and emotional manipulation designed to make you question your worth, your path, and even your connection with the divine. Every delay you faced, every door that seemed to close, every opportunity that slipped through your fingers, none of it was coincidence. You were walking daily through an invisible fog created to suffocate your growth, distort your discernment, and convince you that the problem was always you. The people involved may not have fully understood what they were participating in, but that doesn't mean their actions didn't carry weight in the spiritual realm. Some of them acted out of bitterness, others out of pride, and a few out of pure envy towards the light they saw in you. They gathered around your energy like moths to a flame, feeding off your moments of vulnerability, waiting for the right moment to exploit your emotional wounds. This wasn't just a group of people gossiping or throwing negativity your way. This was a coordinated spiritual assignment, whether conscious or not, where your downfall became a common goal they were all feeding. But here's the truth they never expected to face. Their empire was entirely dependent on your energy. Without your light to feed their control mechanisms, without your emotional reactions to validate their attacks, without your internal struggle to keep you looping in confusion, their entire structure was unsustainable. The energy they used against you wasn't self-generating. It needed a host. And for too long, you were unknowingly allowing your energy to serve as that source. But something shifted. Slowly at first, almost imperceptibly. You began to reclaim pieces of yourself they thought they owned. It started with small decisions. The choice to stay silent instead of defending yourself against lies. The decision to pray when anger was screaming for your attention. The moments when you chose solitude over toxic company, peace over chaotic conversations, self-respect over emotional entanglement. Each of these seemingly simple acts were, in the spirit realm, like earthquakes. While you felt like you were retreating or losing people, what was actually happening was a dismantling, brick by brick, of the stronghold that had been built to cage you. And as you pulled your energy back, the collapse began. At first, it was subtle. Miscommunication started to rise among them. Their plans didn't unfold as expected. The unity they once had started showing cracks. Some turned on each other. Others disappeared from the circle altogether. Where there had once been focused energy against you, now there was only confusion, backstabbing, and chaos. The same mouths that once cursed you started cursing each other. The alliances they thought were unbreakable began to crumble under the weight of their own darkness. Meanwhile, you kept rising, quietly, steadily. You didn't need to respond. You didn't need to prove a point. Your elevation became your answer. And the higher you climbed spiritually, the more their grip on your energy loosened. You started noticing that the anxiety that once lived in your chest was gone. The fear that used to creep into your thoughts late at night began to evaporate. The emotional triggers they once activated with ease now felt distant, irrelevant, powerless. Without realizing it, you had become spiritually untouchable to the very forces that once controlled the atmosphere around you. And now, here you are, standing on the other side of a battle you didn't even fully realize you were winning. The empire they built to block you is in ruins. The spiritual contracts they relied on to hold you back have been annulled. The doors they used to access your energy are sealed shut, and they're scrambling now, searching for ways to re-establish the control they once had. But the more they try, the more the spiritual realm pushes back, because heaven witnessed your endurance. And heaven has already decreed, what was torn down will not be rebuilt. What's happening now on their side is something they were never prepared to face. The same people who once felt empowered by working against you are waking up every day to confusion, emotional instability, and spiritual exhaustion they can't explain. They're trying to gather the same momentum they once had, but the energy that used to fuel their attacks is gone. Conversations that once flowed with gossip and plotting now feel forced and disconnected. Where they once felt united in their silent mission to keep you down, they now find themselves arguing, mistrusting each other, and battling internal turmoil that grows heavier with each passing day. And as they scramble for answers, they're realizing that the cycle they used to rely on has been permanently broken. The energetic doors they once accessed to send negativity your way are closed. Every attempt they make to stir up old drama or reopen emotional wounds falls flat. Their words no longer carry weight in the spirit. Their actions bounce back without effect. They're witnessing, in real time, the collapse of a structure they believed would stand forever. A structure they built on the foundation of your pain, your confusion, and your spiritual vulnerability. But that foundation no longer exists because you're no longer the person they built that empire around. You've shifted dimensions emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. You no longer live at the frequency where their tactics can reach you. The arguments that once triggered you now seem irrelevant. The manipulation that used to hook into your insecurities now feels transparent and powerless. This isn't just personal growth. It's a complete spiritual relocation. You've outgrown the battlefield they built for you. And as a result, their weapons, their strategies, and their alliances no longer apply to where you now exist. Their empire wasn't destroyed by revenge or retaliation. It was destroyed by your decision to ascend. But don't be surprised if you still feel occasional waves of emotional residue. Sometimes, when an empire falls, the dust takes a while to settle. You may have moments where old emotions surface, where memories try to pull you back, where sudden anxiety knocks at your door. This is not a sign of weakness or regression. It's just the energetic remnants of what was, passing through, making one last attempt to find entry. But the difference now is, you recognize it for what it is. You no longer engage. You no longer entertain the lies. You let the energy pass, and you remain rooted in your truth. And while you stand in this new space of clarity, they're still trying to figure out what happened. Some are blaming each other. Some are spiraling into their own emotional chaos. Others are desperately seeking new ways to regain control, not just over you, but over their own rapidly crumbling lives. The irony is that they still think this is about external circumstances. They're checking their surroundings, trying to manipulate new people, looking for new ways to create influence. But none of them are addressing the real problem. The spiritual infrastructure that allowed them to operate no longer exists. That's the part they don't understand. This isn't something they can fix with apologies, with new alliances, or with another round of manipulation. They're facing a divine block, a spiritual embargo, a ceiling that they can't pray their way through, not because the universe is being cruel, but because what they built was rooted in injustice, oppression, and spiritual violation. And the law of divine balance does not allow what was built on brokenness to flourish again. They're stuck in a cycle of their own making now, and unless they choose true healing and repentance, this collapse will continue. Meanwhile, your assignment is clear. Keep moving forward. Keep choosing peace. Keep nurturing your light. You don't need to look back. You don't need to wonder if they'll ever change. That's not your burden to carry anymore. What matters now is that you've reclaimed your authority, your energy, and your alignment. The empire they built around your pain is gone, and the path ahead of you is wide open, clear, and full of possibilities that were once delayed, but never denied. The most powerful and, at the same time, most invisible victories in life happen when your spirit shifts in ways even you don't fully understand. While you were simply trying to survive, praying for relief, and holding on to your last fragments of hope, the heavens were moving on your behalf. The empire they built around your pain, using gossip, jealousy, energetic manipulation, and silent curses, began to shake from its foundations. It didn't fall overnight. It cracked with every tear you shed in silence. It crumbled with every night you chose prayer over anger. And while they believed they still had access to your energy, heaven had already started sealing the doors they used to enter. What felt like isolation for you was actually divine protection being established. This collapse wasn't emotional revenge, and it wasn't karmic coincidence. It was a direct consequence of spiritual laws being enforced. For too long, they moved in shadows, thinking their words spoken in secret would never bear consequences. But what they didn't realize was that in the spiritual realm, every intention carries weight. Every whispered curse, every manipulative thought, every time they spoke your name with envy, it was all being recorded in frequencies you couldn't see. And now, all that energy has reached its point of return, not because you wished harm on anyone, but because the universal law of sowing and reaping always fulfills itself. The attempts they make now to rebuild what collapsed are desperate and scattered. Where once they moved in unity, there is now disconnection. Where once their words carried influence over your atmosphere, now they fall powerless, returning to them like arrows shot into the wind with no direction. They're trying to recreate the old cycles. They're revisiting the old conversations. Some are even reaching out to old connections, attempting to restart what once worked so easily against you. But none of it is taking root. The soil has changed. The spiritual permissions they once had no longer exist. You, on the other hand, are experiencing shifts that may still feel subtle on the surface, but are monumental in the spirit. You're noticing that old triggers don't affect you the same way. Conversations that used to drain you now feel irrelevant. Spaces that once held you captive now feel too small for your current energy. This is what happens when a stronghold breaks. It's not just that their empire falls, it's that you begin to rise into an energetic territory that they can't access. And as your frequency rises, their ability to influence your path diminishes with every passing day. But I need to remind you, just because the collapse has happened doesn't mean the aftershocks won't try to reach you. Energetically, the dust is still settling. You might still feel sudden waves of sadness, random moments of emotional fatigue, or even intrusive thoughts trying to drag you back into old narratives. That's normal after a spiritual shift this big. But here's the difference. Now, you recognize the energy for what it is. Now, you're equipped with the awareness to stand firm and let those waves pass without giving them power. While they sit in confusion, trying to decipher why nothing seems to work anymore, you're being called to focus not on them, but on nurturing your own restoration. This is the time to refill your cup, to pour love back into the places that felt emptied, to rebuild your confidence, your joy, and your connection with the divine in ways that are richer and deeper than before. The collapse on their side was just the first part, the rebuilding of your inner world. That's the real mission now, because what they never realized, what they were too blinded by pride and ego to see, is that your elevation was inevitable. No matter how many obstacles they placed, no matter how many people they tried to turn against you, no matter how many traps they set, the divine assignment over your life remained untouched. And now that the chains have fallen, now that their empire has turned to dust, you are finally standing at the threshold of the life you were always meant to live. This is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your highest chapter yet. This is where your spiritual authority starts to take a new shape inside you. What you just lived wasn't only about survival. It was a divine initiation into a higher level of discernment, emotional mastery, and energetic self-governance. The old version of you was reactive, always trying to fix, to prove, to explain yourself. But the person you are becoming now knows the value of silence. You know the power of walking away from environments that drain you. You understand that not every battle requires your energy, and that sometimes the most powerful response is to rise so high that the attacks can't even reach you anymore. This is the frequency of someone who has outgrown warfare and stepped fully into alignment. And yet, even as you embrace this new space of clarity and spiritual maturity, you might find moments where your heart still aches for closure that will never come. There may still be part of you that wonders why they hated you so much, why they worked so hard to break you, why they made your happiness such a target. But here's what you need to understand. This was never truly personal. The battle was never just about you as a person. It was about the light you carry, the frequency you emit, the assignment on your life. Darkness doesn't attack what isn't a threat, and your existence, your presence, your growth, it threatened everything that dark spiritual empire stood for. It's time for you to stop asking why they did what they did, and start asking how you're going to use this new level of freedom. What are you going to build now that the blockages are gone? What dreams are you ready to chase now that the emotional fog has lifted? What part of your purpose are you finally prepared to embody without hesitation? The collapse of their empire wasn't just the end of their control, it was the unlocking of your next chapter. And this chapter isn't about revenge, it's about rebirth, about expansion, about reclaiming every part of yourself that you gave away trying to survive. You'll start to notice that the same energy that once felt so heavy now feels like it's working for you. Where there was once resistance, now there's flow. Where there was delay, now there's movement. This is the energetic shift that happens when divine justice has been served in the spirit realm. But it's also a call for you to remain aligned, to keep choosing integrity, and to guard your heart against any temptation to return to old cycles. Remember, you don't owe anyone access to your new space. Not everyone deserves a seat at the table of your restoration. There will be moments when you'll feel the urge to look back, out of curiosity, out of nostalgia, or even out of lingering pain. But please hear this. The version of you that entertained those connections no longer exists. Going back would only mean shrinking yourself again to fit inside spaces that were always too small for your calling. You didn't come this far to repeat old patterns. You didn't fight these invisible wars just to re-enter cages you've already broken out of. Let your elevation be final. Let your detachment be sacred. Let your peace be non-negotiable. And for those who once stood against you, whether consciously or unconsciously, their journey is now theirs to face. The energetic consequences they are experiencing aren't your responsibility to fix, to soften, or to heal. You can wish them well from a distance. You can send love without re-engaging, but you cannot, and should not, sacrifice your own freedom trying to rescue people from the karma they created for themselves. This is a season where you honor your growth by letting others sit with the results of their choices. This is where spiritual maturity becomes more than just a concept. It becomes your way of being. You stop reacting to every trigger. You stop needing external validation. You stop explaining your boundaries. And instead, you live in alignment, trusting that what's meant for you will always find its way without you having to fight for it in the old, exhausting ways. You've outgrown emotional wars. You've graduated from being a target, and now you're a spiritual authority in your own right, moving with grace, with power, and with unshakable peace. What you've stepped into now is not just freedom. It's a recalibration of your entire spiritual atmosphere. The air feels different around you. The heaviness that once lingered in your home, in your thoughts, in your relationships, it's dissipating. You may find yourself breathing deeper without even noticing, sleeping better, laughing more, feeling inspired again after a long season of emotional numbness. These aren't random mood swings. They are physical manifestations of a spiritual release. The weight that's been lifted wasn't just psychological, it was energetic. And now, for the first time in a long time, your spirit is finally occupying the space it was always meant to fill. There's something sacred about this stage of your journey. This isn't just recovery. This is reclamation. Parts of your identity that were buried under layers of survival mode are starting to resurface. The creativity you lost touch with, the dreams you placed on hold, the visions you once had for your future, they're all returning, stronger and clearer than before. The divine never intended for you to stay stuck in survival. What you endured wasn't meant to define you, but to refine you, to sharpen your discernment, to awaken your authority. And now, that awakening is in full bloom. Even the people around you will start to notice the difference. They'll see it in your posture, in your boundaries, in the way you speak and carry yourself. Some may not have the language to describe it, but they'll feel it. The old version of you is gone. What remains is someone who understands their worth at a cellular level. Someone who doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't shrink. Someone who walks with the quiet confidence of knowing that divine protection isn't something you have to earn. It's something that was always yours, now fully activated. And while they sit in the ruins of the empire they built against you, you'll continue to build something entirely different. Not based on fear, but on faith. Not rooted in revenge, but in vision. Your focus now belongs to your future, your healing, and the impact you're destined to make. Let their confusion be their own teacher. Let their karma run its course without your interference. Your energy is far too valuable to waste on monitoring their downfall. Your attention now belongs to the life that's unfolding ahead of you, and it's only just beginning. So as you move forward from this point, let this truth anchor deep within you. You didn't just survive their attacks. You dismantled the entire system that empowered them. Their dark spiritual empire has fallen. Their strategies are powerless against you now, and even if they try to rebuild, they'll soon realize nothing they create will hold. Not when your spirit has already outgrown every trap they set. Not when divine justice has already ruled in your favor. Not when you finally stepped fully into the authority of who you are. If this message resonated deeply with your spirit, take a moment right now to mark this victory with your own words. Write in the comments, "I raise my authority." Let this be your declaration and reminder for the difficult days ahead. Take advantage and like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and share it with someone who may need this confirmation today. I also want to give a special thanks to everyone who supports our channel. If you want to help us continue producing content, you can support us through our Buy Me a Coffee. Just click on the link in the first pinned comment. And before you go, don't forget to watch the video we recommend here on the screen, or the playlist, The Secrets of the Chosen. Each video was made with you in mind, so that you can continue growing spiritually. Thank you for being with us. May God bless you abundantly, and remember, your journey is just beginning, and the best is yet to come.